What I love about Anchor is that it's given me creative control of my own material. I was approached by a big company to do a podcast about the art world, and I didn't want to sign over all rights to them. Anchor has allowed me to make this podcast and to keep creative control as well as financial control in terms of advertising. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free. You can use it on your phone or your computer. There are tools that help you to upload your recordings that you've done separately or on the app. They'll distribute it for you as well, which again, I couldn't wrap my mind around distribution, and they have it all there for you in one place: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and many more. You can easily make money from it as well. They help you advertise. As you can see right now, I'm getting my first ad out through Anchor. And all you have to do is download the app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Good luck with your podcast and getting your voice out there and owning your content. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for episode 10 of the Bees and Honey podcast. Today we speak with Blanca de la Torre Garcia, who is an international curator. She's done amazing shows all across the world, from India to Mexico to Spain and here in the US as well. It's always a pleasure to speak to her. She's very knowledgeable about art and knowledgeable about young artists who are working along the themes of the environment. She's very much into sustainability of public institutions working in ways which help the environment. And she's written many articles and recently published a book. And here she is to tell us a bit about how her work helps us all build a better future. Thank you, Blanca, for being here. Today, we're speaking with Blanca de la Torre Garcia, who is an independent curator and has worked with many artists and cultural institutions around the world. She was chief curator at RTM in Spain and now is part of the board of the Musac Museum, the contemporary art museum of Castilla y León in Spain. Her curatorial vision has, in the last years, focused on environmental issues and how art engages with this critical subject. Hi, Blanca. Can you tell us a little bit about your work and what you've done in the past at RTM, etc.?
Hello, Nicolette. Of course. Well, basically, my research has an approach closely related to eco-aesthetics, political ecology, and sustainability. So I understand art as an instrument of knowledge through which we can rethink and reformulate other possibilities of commonality and more sustainable strategies to relate to our specific context. So basically, before 2009, I curated exhibitions in New York, Prague, in London, in Madrid. Then after that, I served as chief curator at Artium for over 5 years. Artium is the contemporary art museum of the Basque Country in Spain. Afterwards, I curated exhibitions, worldwide in the MOCAV, Museum of Contemporary Art of Belgrade, in Serbia, in the Salzburger Kunstverein in Austria. In Mexico, I've worked a lot, in the Centro de las Artes, Monterrey, in the Museo Carrillo Gil, in Mexico City, in the MACO, the Museo Contemporary Art Museum of Oaxaca, Colombia as well, in MC Arte, Bogota, in Italy, there are in Poland as well, in the Lasnia Center for Contemporary Art in Gdansk. I did a big group exhibitions there. In Madrid, in Centro, in Alcalá 31, and several spaces. Also National Gallery last year, National Gallery of Delhi in India, and Musac in León, where, as you said, I'm part of the board.
Yes.
Yeah, and presently I'm working in several exhibitions, several essays. I have also some lectures coming up, and I'm especially excited about my book launch that will happen
Mm-hmm.
this fall, which is a
Mm-hmm.
sort of manual of guidelines about
Mm-hmm.
how cultural institutions can be more sustainable and why.
Wow. Well, tell us a little bit about the book because I didn't know that that was imminent, but I'm glad to hear it. Tell us how the book, what does it say?
Well, I've been working on it for the past year. Yeah, it's especially guidelines. I mean, it's very pragmatic. So what I offer is like alternatives to how to be more sustainable from the cultural sector. What's the role that culture should play there? What's the role that culture should play also in the following the 2030 agenda for sustainable development of the United Nations,
Mm-hmm.
and also why, right? Why culture is that important? Why should culture play an important role there? And
Mm-hmm.
and I have also invited some other experts for different sectors. So it's not only art and exhibitions and museums, but I also have film, also music, libraries, education, and performing arts.
What's the title of the
So
book?
yeah, it's called Libro Verde del Instituto Cervantes, Sustainability and Culture. Well, it would mean like the Green Book
Yes.
of Cultural
Do
Institutions.
you think it will be translated or is it just going to be in Spanish for now?
Well, that's the plan. They would like to translate it afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
but then first, well, it's going to be published by the Cervantes Institute,
Mm-hmm.
and as you know, the Cervantes Institute has like headquarters all over the place in so many countries.
Mm-hmm.
So first, it's going to be distributed in all those places, and also in cultural institutes in Spain. And then after that, we're planning to do an English version as well.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to reading more. I should just brush up on my Spanish so I can read it in Spanish. Um, how do you see artists contributing to this idea of sustainability, of, contributing to saving the planet, basically?
Well, the relationship between art and ecology has always been there since its origins. And I think making good art can be an effective tool to promote in the public a rethinking of our responsibility with the planet, which is our home, which is our oikos. And I think art can help us understanding our relationship with the world and do it in a holistic approach that might help to find a new paradigm.
Right. Um, I had in mind, I'm just writing down another question that came to mind. I know that you have a strong background in video art and new media art. What media do you think best lends itself to raising awareness about planetary issues?
Well, I don't think there is any media better than other to raise awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I think each artist has to work with the one that better fits their concept and line of work.
Mm-hmm.
What I think um, what is important is that the selected format is consistent with the content.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, as you mentioned, I have worked a lot with video and new media because I always loved its aesthetic properties and because its multi-dimensional experience has a great potential to address the complex problematics that society is facing nowadays.
Right. I have a question that's a little bit long, but I'll address this one first, which kind of feeds into the answer you just gave us. Which institutions, both public and private, do you see contributing to a pro-planet agenda? Like, are there institutions you've worked with, or are there private donors or collectors that you know of who have a vision as strong as yours in terms of how art can help the planet?
Mm. Well, in the US, you have amazing exemplary places like the Exploratorium at Pier 15 in San Francisco
Mm-hmm.
or the California Academy of Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Both have the lead platinum certification from the US Green Building Council.
Mm-hmm.
Or in New York, we already have a climate change museum.
Mm-hmm.
And well, not only institutions, for example, Art Sale in Miami
Mm-hmm.
is doing a significant inviting artists and curators to work on issues related to climate change and water problematics.
Mm-hmm.
I did one of the residencies
Mm-hmm.
research about those issues, especially focused in coral bleaching.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, Art Sale is doing a very serious and committed task in Miami, which is literally sinking. You know, Miami Beach.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's literally,
Oh my.
while the country has a negationist president that is going to take the planet to a total catastrophe.
Oh God. And the scary thing is that the Floridians love him from what I see. Not all of them, but I mean, it's generally a
Well,
bastion for Trump loving people.
yeah,
Um,
well, just some of it. And you know, in Europe, the UK is on top, and there are amazing organizations as well. It has, for instance, Julie's Bicycle or Creative Carbon, for instance, that they have been exemplary and having a driving force for change in the cultural sector.
right. Well, I mean, I look towards Europe as somehow the father or motherland of America. So it makes sense that they're a little bit ahead of us in everything. But they're not in other ways, but we'll talk about another time. In America, we have a big outcry as well about pharmaceutical giant Purdue and the Sackler family and their contributions to the opioid crisis, their support of the arts, and what some people call whitewashing their reputation. We have David Koch, who passed away recently, his money supporting the arts and other philanthropic causes, and yet whose business practices were in direct conflict to environmental issues. There was also recently the resignation of the Canders, Mr. and Mrs. Canders, from the Whitney board over their company's supply of tear gas used against the migrants on the US-Mexico border. Today we see artists taking stands and protesting the hypocrisy of big money donors whose work is not in alignment with bigger issues. What's your take on this outside of the USA in relation to sustainability? For example, are artists that you know of protesting the assault that's currently going on in the Amazon rainforest?
Yeah. Well, I don't know any case like right now with the Amazonian tragedy that is going
Mm-hmm.
on right now. Unfortunately, you're right, and unfortunately, art and culture is very often misused as a tool for
Mm-hmm.
greenwashing. That demonstrates as well the power that it
Mm-hmm.
has. And I think art has played an important role there. Like a very known example are all these artist collectives in England whose primary focus is to free art from
Mm-hmm.
oil, like Liberate
Mm-hmm.
Tate, that after some years of performances and actions, they ended with the corporate sponsorship
Mm-hmm.
of BP at the
Mm-hmm.
Tate Gallery, or the interdisciplinary art collectives platform, or Art Not Oil Coalition, for
Right.
instance.
And I'm thinking too, I recently was speaking to Alain Servet, who did like 16 studio visits in one day in and around Jakarta. I mean, crazy 16 studio visits. I'm like, wow. But basically, he said, the artists who are outside of the market, who are not somehow in the Western view, have a lot of things to say in relation to these issues. And their work is really valuable, but they're not often being seen because no one's really doing the footwork to go and find them because they're not part of the established art world, the established art market, the established art scene. So I think it would be interesting to go to these places and uh, go around and see the local artists and what they're doing and what they have to say. I think it would be important. It's something that we're not necessarily doing in our little part of the art world, but somebody's doing the legwork out there for us. Thank God. But how do you see your writing and curatorial practice helping the environment? I know you have the book out. I know a lot of the exhibitions you do are around the environment, but do you actually see results coming either from people changing their minds about the institutions that you work in and how they operate or stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that understanding scientific facts is not enough. And arts and culture can help understanding the relationship between the environment, the social, economic, and the political spheres, all that
Mm-hmm.
inextricable relationship. And I definitely can see that through the exhibitions, but also through the text, the essays, the lectures. Like many people approach me after lectures, telling me how, some of the things that I spoke about changed their minds. And I believe art can help raising awareness to take action. You know that cognitive psychology says that an important part of our decisions are taken due to emotions, and that's where
Right.
art can play a crucial, because the symbolic power art has can activate those feelings that will end up
Right.
in taking real action. And yeah, that's why culture is considered the fourth
Culture.
pillar of sustainability. And yeah, I think it can play. Yes, culture. It's called the fourth pillar of sustainability, and I think it can play a very important role in like promoting and implementing the 2030 agenda of sustainable development, and it's
Mm-hmm.
17 SDGs
Wow.
established by the
There's an
United
artist
Nations.
who works in New
Definitely.
York, and he just came to mind because, again, when we talk about these institutions and stuff, we're already engaging with a certain part of the population that we assume is educated and aware and out there and in some way proactive. But then when you think of like the populations in America that don't necessarily have access to this information or these cultural institutions and stuff like that, Hank Willis Thomas did something interesting, which is basically launch a campaign called For Freedoms, where he goes through like 50 states in America and puts up these public boards along the highways and stuff like that. So the art is seen by all these people driving around in the Midwest or wherever else in the South where the message needs to get out, that one, the environment is in trouble and it's something that's happening and it's real. And all these other issues that really need to be dealt with that perhaps don't come to these people out there in the boonies. Anyways, is there anything else I didn't ask you, or is there anything that you might want to add about your practice or about the subject that I didn't address?
Um, well, maybe I would like to add that even if I believe that that symbolic part is very important, we are in a critical moment of climate crisis now that is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the cultural sector has to demonstrate that all that rhetoric
Mm-hmm.
has to go in line with a respectful attitude towards the environment. I mean, it's important to be consistent. You cannot be talking about climate change and do it with a
Right.
work that uses plastic or other petrol derived
Mm-hmm.
materials. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, and the same with institutions. Their discourses have to match with their attitude.
Um,
And that's why,
mhm.
art should play a crucial role there, and work in line with that 2030 agenda of sustainable development. I think cultural institutions put on the table alternatives that contribute to that paradigm
Yes.
shift, and to collaborate
All
for a
right. What are
more
your travel plans for
habitable
the future?
future
I know
for
it's so
all,
hard to
and
ever pin you down.
future generations.
I'm always happy to see you whenever I see you, wherever I see you. But maybe you can inspire us all by letting us know what's your next stop for work in terms of an exhibition or a residency or whatever you're doing next. Yeah.
Uh huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in
Mm-hmm.
the next month, I'm
Mm-hmm.
basically going to be all the time in Spain because I have some
Mm-hmm.
lectures and projects here between Madrid, Lanzarote, Barcelona, and Oviedo. My
Wow.
next two exhibitions are there in Oviedo and in Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
And then in October, I'm also going to
I think,
Nigeria for the Lagos
yeah, that's
Biennale.
going to be amazing. Yeah,
And
that's going to be
I'm going
amazing. Well, if I think of
I'm
anyone
going to
over who
lecture
would be
there
interesting for you
about
to
this
meet,
as
I'll
well, about
definitely
practical
let you
practice.
know.
So I'm very excited about that because I'm
Thank you for
living in
taking the time
Nigeria.
to speak with us, and
That's
I hope
next.
Thank you for joining us on the Bees and Honey podcast. I apologize if this episode was a little bit sketchy. We had some technical difficulties. I think the Wi-Fi connection maybe on my side wasn't strong enough, and I know the sound was cutting in and out for both of us and perhaps for you, the listener, too. Next week, we'll have another interview overseas, internationally based, with an artist who is working in sustainability and with recycled objects. We'll see you then. Thank you for joining us and have a great week.